Welcome to the Communication Diva Podcast, episode 91. This episode of the podcast features an interview with Tanya Geisler on the subject of the Imposter Complex. That's the self-doubting inner voice that tells you that any success or talent you have is not attributable to you, but to fluke or luck, and that it's only a matter of time before everyone discovers you really are a fraud, an imposter, and actually not able to do what you purport to be able to do. I know the Imposter Complex well. Back in the early days of the Communication Diva podcast, when I was just starting out as the introductory deep voice, I was racked with worry that if listeners knew I was really a 13-year-old girl, they wouldn't believe the voice was mine. I carried on in spite of my misgivings, but oh, how I wish someone like Tanya had been there to help.
Hey everyone, and welcome to episode 91 of the Communication Diva podcast. My name is Jen Swanson, and I'm glad to be back with you. It's been a little bit of a break there in between episodes, but today I'm excited to bring you Tanya Geisler, who is a leadership coach and a speaker and a Tedx speaker as well, and among many, many other things. She's a writer. She teaches women how to step into their starring roles and own their authority. And today she's going to talk to us about the Imposter Complex. So we'll get into that in just a moment. I also want to let you know that if you are at all interested in podcasting yourself, there are many resources on the website at Communication Diva, including my friend Cliff Ravenscraft's Podcasting A to Z course, and I know he's got another one coming up in September. There is a large discount if you go through the Communication Diva website. I think it's a $500 discount. There is also a promo with Libsyn, which is a hosting platform for your podcast. So if you're interested at all, come on over to the resources. You can also see some things down the right-hand side of the website. Click on those, and there will be promo codes that will give you discounts on those products. We also, in our family, have a brand new little puppy, and if you're interested in seeing Bandit, you can come over to the website, and you can look on Facebook too, because I think I put a picture of him up there. He is an assistance dog in training, so he is 12 weeks now, and absolutely adorable, of course, and he is learning a lot of things. So he eventually will go on to advanced training and be placed with someone with disabilities. And so he's our little wild love, is what I've been calling him. And he was driving me crazy yesterday because, as puppies do, he's trying to put everything in his mouth and chewing on everything and full of energy, and then he sleeps. So it's kind of fun. Anyhow, I am going to turn you over now, and if you hear banging and noise, it's because our renovations are still underway. We are bringing you this from my inside house studio, and we're talking to Tanya via Skype. So here she is. I hope you enjoy. Hey everyone, here I am with Tanya Geisler, and thank you so much for connecting with me, Tanya, and for coming on to Communication Diva. And I wonder if you could just start off by introducing yourself to us.
Sure thing. Thank you so much for having me, Jen. So I'm Tanya Geisler. I am a leadership coach, and I have been doing a lot of work in the world around the Imposter Complex, and most recently wrote the 12 Lies of the Imposter Complex and One Truth, and I am in love with it, and I just am excited to get to share it with your listeners.
And so what is your background, Tanya? What have you been doing before you became this motivational speaker and all the things that you're doing?
I was in advertising. And wow, it's so interesting. I don't know why that funny little smile just came into my face as I said that. I suspect that probably that's where a lot of, this part of my story begins, is that imposter complex kind of quality. But I was in advertising for many years, and there were aspects of it that I absolutely adored, and there were other aspects that just felt very disconnected from the soul, the essence of who I am. And before that, I kind of did it all. I did some admin work. I did some bartending. I did, and as I look back now, I see the rich tapestry that continues to unfold in my life as I keep adding these different skill sets. And it's just this beautiful culmination to the work that I'm doing right now.
And it all does add up, doesn't it? I mean, bartending is just a phenomenal place to learn about people. And organizational skills and thinking on your feet, right? And admin work and advertising would be fantastic for the stuff that you're doing now too. And you're also a coach.
I am. Yes, I am a coach. Yes, that's probably the number one thing that I'm up to in the world right now on a daily basis. So I have a beautiful practice. I want to be really honest. The coaching practice, it can ebb and flow. So I work one-on-one with people. I have something called a spotlight session, which I really love doing. These are these intense 90-minute, let's go deep, let's shine light on what is needed. I have a program called Step Into Your Starring Role, which I just adore. It's a lot of this imposter complex work. And I'm working on a program right now with a colleague, Lauren Bacon, called Beyond Compare. So it's going to be about comparison. We all feel that in our work. So I guess I'm up to a number of things. And I have a program called Board of Your Life, BOARD of Your Life. And this is really about understanding how all of those pieces in your life do fit together. As well as seeing how you're showing up in the world. It's about gathering people around you who know you from different capacities, and they're able to shine your light back at you. It's a really transformative process. So I'm really proud of that too.
So when do you sleep?
When my daughter does. So that means 9:30 to 4.
Oh yes, busy times. Hey, well, so this imposter complex, I was really interested in. Actually, it was on my list to do a podcast about this, and then you mysteriously and magically appeared, and I was very excited because you know a lot about this, and I wonder if you can start off by telling us what it is, and then see where we go from there.
So, there's two places to start here. One is my personal experience. One is that it has been this quality that has sort of been a traveling companion as I've stepped into lots of different roles. I've always had this quality of, certainly anytime I've ever experienced any success with it, it's sort of this kind of nagging quality of, it's just a matter of time before you fail. Moreover, it's just a matter of time before they figure out that you're not supposed to be here. It's that quality of time is running out. There's this kind of urgent, hot quality to it. But the real story is that the term imposter complex was given to us by Pauline Clance and Susan Imes. They're clinical psychologists who were working with high achieving women back in 1978, and just noticed this trend of these women not being able to attribute any of their success to anything of their own doing. So it was never attributed to their talent or their, the amount of tenacity that they'd had or their skills. It was all about luck. It was all about timing. It was all about fluke. And I just in reading this, just felt that the lights go off, that this was so familiar to me. It was so familiar. It was just like ancestral almost,
So from there, who experiences imposter syndrome?
So everybody who is high achieving, high functioning. This is actually the good news about the imposter complex. If you feel it, that it's because you have this value of excellence. You have this desire for mastery. And so we can't paint it with this brush of bad, nor would we, because it really is, it's intended to keep us on our edge. That's the purpose that it serves. The problem is when we give too much power to it, when we listen to the lies that it starts to tell us. But it really, anybody who's high achieving, high functioning, they have at some time or another felt the sting. And the people that are moving through it just have the tools. It's just a function of having the right tools to move through it, and also being able to recognize it for what it is. There's such peace and comfort when we hear ourselves, when we hear this sort of dialogue, and we can say, "Oh, I know what that is. I know what that is." Mm-hmm. So that's really what I'm wanting for people, because when we believe the lies, we do stop ourselves from changing the world, because we have this, who am I to change the world? I have nothing of value to offer. I'm powerless. Any success I've had is a fluke. If I stick my neck up, they're going to see me for the fraud that I am. Right? So we don't step out in the way that we really feel called to, because we believe these lies.
And you've got in your what do you call it? An ebook, a little online, the 12 Lies of the Imposter Syndrome.
Yep.
And so, can you name some of those?
Sure. Yeah.
Okay.
Well, the very first one, it's a really good place to start, and that's your self-doubt. So this is a lie. Your self-doubt is proof of your inadequacy. So it also shows up as, I just really feel this one in my chest. Who am I to lead and serve others when I have so much self-doubt?
That must be so common.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. And the good news is that, the self-doubt is actually just proof of your humanity, hallelujah, and not your inadequacy, right? We just as I was saying, the fact that you're experiencing the imposter complex is proof that you're conscientious, that you are high-functioning, that you do value excellence and mastery and those sorts of things. So that's actually what makes you a good leader. That bringing that quality of empathy into the work that you're intended to do from a place of honesty means that you're able to, what do I want to say here? You have a sensitivity and an awareness of your impact. This is what makes you a good leader.
So if you don't have it, then you should be worried. Is that right?
If you don't have it, then that means that you probably have overcome it in some way, shape, or form. You've found a way to work with it, and it's showing up in other ways. I mean, there is I talk about this. Another one of the lies is, you really have to fake it till you make it, and I think that's actually. It's actually very disempowering. I understand the science underneath, taking powerful stances. Amy Cuddy has done a beautiful TED talk on posture and what how to take a power stance. But I really think that if we align ourselves more truthfully with what we know to be true for ourselves, our own true power places, then we can be more authentic in the way we're moving through the world. So I think that if you don't ever, if you're rooted in your truth, you're rooted in your power, and you don't ever have even the whisper of the imposter complex, there is a part that may just that may have found a defense mechanism or sort of a feedback loop that's able to support. But I think that if you look to the people that you really admire, people that you consider to be successful, if you really sit down and have that very truthful conversation, you're going to find out that they have experienced it before.
Mm-hmm. So it doesn't it doesn't leave most people out. It's there in some form, some capacity. Anybody
who wants to be excellent or anybody who's striving towards mastery, yes, that is absolutely true.
Okay,
The more hats you wear, and this is, I think we were talking about this at the top of the call, the more hats you wear, the more places that it does show up.
Oh, okay. Yeah. So because you're then spreading yourself more thinly, and not devoting as much time to one task as maybe another. So what's another lie?
Well, I think, successful people don't experience this. So I think that's a really important place to be looking. And there's a reason we breathe this collective sigh of relief when we hear, that they feel it. We've heard, and we know Stephen King has talked about it. Sheryl Sandberg has talked about it. Chris Martin, Tina Fey. When we hear these people that are at the top of their game and they have experienced it, this kind of okay, I'm not alone. And that is the truth. So as I say, it is a traveling companion. The more you do, the more places you succeed, the more opportunities it's going to take to point out all that you don't know, and other places in your life that you may not be living up to its really high standards, because this is what it's about. It's really, really high standards. So I mentioned this in the book, that it's actually called conscious incompetence. And so we are aware of how much we still don't know. So that's the trick, though, is to not allow that to shut you down. So remembering that you are not alone, remembering that you are an exquisite company, can be very fortifying as you try to move through this process.
Yeah, because the people that I've met, the reason why I wanted to do an episode on this is because I've met people who, when I first encountered them, I thought, wow, she's got it all together. She's just slick and she knows what she's doing. And then I was kind of stunned, and I shouldn't have been, when she turned around and said, I was feeling like, who am I to be doing X? And I was surprised, because she had come across as so together, so confident, so on top of her game. And for her to reveal this imposter complex or syndrome surprised me, and I'm not sure why it did that, but then you're right, it was relieving in a way.
Yeah. Well, and the thing is, part of the discussion too is the way that we do put these people on a type of pedestal, and so what we're really doing is we're really projecting our deepest desires onto them, and so we actually so on the one hand we want to see that we want to believe that it has been really easy for them, because that's what we want for ourselves. We really want it to be really easy. So it's like the veil kind of gets dropped the second we find out, no, it actually hasn't been easy. Actually, she struggles daily with have I done this right? I'll never forget the Elizabeth Gilbert talk, the TED talk that she did about, what happens when what happens if the muse doesn't come back? Like, what happens, right? Yeah. And so we all have that. And so and here's the other thing, and this is why this work is so important to me. As I mentioned, I've got a program called Step Into Your Starring Role, which is rooted in the Tedx talk that I did, moving from imposter to authority. Part of the reason we don't fully step into our own authority is that we are afraid of those projections. We are afraid that people are going to think that, on the one hand, we want them to feel like we've got it all figured out, but on the other, it's the carrying around those projections can be very, very heavy to do. So it's this, understanding our own relationship where we are looking to those people, we talk about Tina Fey and Meryl Streep, and how is it even possible that she's filled with self-doubt? And the truth and the humanity is she wants to be excellent. She wants to be masterful. And so she still has another upward spiral up her own evolutionary process that needs to happen, right? So that's the other thing. We really are all on this upward spiral. So there's another part of this, and that is, and I mentioned this in my talk, that's the ego wants to want more than it wants to get. So we are always striving forward. And this is part of why the imposter complex is always with us. It's sort of like, okay, well, don't get too settled here. There's another place for you to go. There's more for you to understand. There's more mastery available for you.
Is there I read something somewhere recently about fear of criticism, even bigger than fear of failure. And I wonder where that comes in.
Well, I think that fear of failure, fear of success, I think fundamentally, and this is just like a really baseline belief for me, I think underneath most of our fears is a fear of being alone and a fear of being disconnected. So I think that criticism feels like a way that we are othering ourselves. There's a displaced quality to it. So there's now a gap between you and I if you criticize the work that I do. So moving from criticism into discernment, I think that's really the trick. The other thing is that the imposter complex really loves to hear that criticism as a validation for the competence extremities that it holds very dear. Like it's like, so that's actually the third lie, which is you are all or nothing. You're all or nothing. So, you are a complete failure or you're a complete success. It's one or the other. So it hears criticism, and that is that validation that, oh, you're nothing. Right. You're nothing and there's no room for you to move. You're a failure.
So it's seeking evidence to support its position.
Absolutely.
Okay.
It loves those worst case scenarios. So when we get that external feedback in the package of criticism, then it loves to just turn that right into, see, told ya, told ya, which are, of course, and that's the John Lennon talks, there's this famous John Lennon quote, part of me thinks I'm a complete loser, and the other part of me thinks I'm God Almighty. So all of the times, so I'm going to go ahead and make up that every time that, he was ever criticized, it's just that kind of, that there's that thesis statement for all the ways that he's a total loser, right?
Right.
And then the other times were places where he had people project their dreams and hopes and desires onto him. It's a really weighty place to be. So at both ends of the spectrum is a total illusion, all God Almighty and complete loser. It's all nothing, success, failure. Anytime we live in those dichotomies, or try to live in those dichotomies, where we set ourselves up for failure.
So people are getting into their own way, and I wonder how many people have not, risked as a result.
Well, that's the thing that actually, when I say I go to bed at 9:30, that's the thing that wakes me up at 2 a.m. Like that, actually, I feel that I actually feel that, right, even as I think about it right now, I feel it on my chest, that profound sadness that there are so many people who are sitting on top of their genius, who are sitting on top of their beliefs, their voice, and not saying what they need to say. Like full stop, actually. Full stop. That just keeps me awake.
Well, and that's what's driving the work you do, it sounds like.
Yeah. Yes. So that's, we actually know on a cellular level how to fix so much of what's going on, but it's the fourth lie, and I don't actually mean to be going in order here, but is you have nothing useful to say or original or important. So the really, I don't have a favorite of these lies. I think they're all powerful in their own way. And when I say favorite, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But when we believe that one in particular, we say nothing.
Mm-hmm. Well, and I've talked to people who I think would make brilliant authors or podcasters or, speakers. And the response has often been, oh, well, someone's already done that. I couldn't do it any better. Mm-hmm. Or I don't have anything original or interesting to say.
I know. It's heartbreaking, because the truth is that it probably has been said. I mean, listen to this conversation. I'm just really repeating, what Pauline Clance and Susan Imes discovered back in '78, but through the lens of my experience and the experience of the clients, and it's new to me in this way, and hopefully it's new to this audience in this way. And I actually, for me, this has been such a full body thing that it was impossible for me to not go down this path, even though, of course, who really wants to go down the path of their own pain? But so, yeah, there is a distinct possibility that what you're saying has been said before, but it has never, ever been said in the way that you will say it.
Right, because you're your own incarnation.
Yep.
So how do we begin to address this imposter syndrome?
Well, first of all, so really and truly recognizing the lies for what they are. So just to knowing them, being able to sort of go, oh, okay, I hear that, I see that, and then discerning for yourself what is true that needs to be moved forward on or healed, or what support maybe is needed. I think that when you were talking to that person that you admire and understanding her human experience, I think talking about it is really, really, really important to help us understand that we are not alone, to share our own experiences with how to ride side saddle with it. It's sort of like, that's kind of the impression. I don't know that you ever really, really, really overcome it, because I think as we continue to sharpen our mastery, I think that it's always going to be there. But I think that not telling anybody about this is it's a problem. So I think that we need to name it, and I think we need to share with each other. That engenders empathy, and that engenders connection, and that really that helps each other. So quick little story. So I did this Tedx talk on the topic, and a group of women in advertising, as it happens, got back to me afterwards, and they said that they watched it behind closed doors, which I thought was so funny. In one of their offices, one of the VP's offices, who's a woman who experiences profound bouts of, imposter complex. So they watched it behind closed doors, and apparently it was just like silence afterwards, and there was just this very, like crickets, and then it was this sort of I felt that. So they ended up having this really beautiful conversation, and they decided that they were going to do an imposter jar. So this works sort of like a swear jar, and they keep it in the kitchenette, their office, and anytime they hear each other saying something that has the whisper of the imposter complex, then they put some money into the jar. So it's this beautiful way of holding each other accountable. And so it's this sort of, well, I'd love to lead the meeting, but I really don't think I'm ready yet. You should do it because you're better at X, Y, and Z than I am. So, when they can hear it for each other, or, great job on landing that account. Oh, I just got really lucky, or they just like me, or whatever it is, money goes in the jar. Tink, tink, tink. So I love that. So I think that talking about it is a really important thing to do with your peer group. And there's also, though, the flip of this. And again, this is about discernment. We also need to use some restraint, though, so that it is not that we're not always saying, I feel like an imposter right now. I like constantly wearing it as yet another way to distance ourselves from the experience. So what I'm talking about is actually line number 6, which is you must tell everyone about this. So it's actually more like, what it's actually doing is you're putting your hand up to say, hey, everybody, I'm an imposter. So this shows up when we say, when we are in a gathering of elite thinkers in our group, or we've been invited to do something, and then we really say, I don't belong here.
Couldn't that be damaging to you?
To say that I don't belong here?
Yeah.
That's just it, right? Like, so on the one hand, it's like I'm saying, let's talk about this. And the other hand, what I'm not advocating is that you say, I don't belong here. And if you do be careful to look around. And I bet you're going to see that there's like this quality of complete bemusement as everybody's thinking, well, I don't think I'm supposed to be here. I really think that we need to, like, you're supposed to be there, and so am I. So let's just let that go. So it's something a bit more along the lines of just noticing how good it feels to have been invited, trying to just root into the truth of what somebody else has seen about you and your expertise and the reason that you've been invited in the first place. That's where you need to look. It's not about, coming clean and saying, all right, everybody, like, I'm just going to head you off of the pass here. You got the wrong person. It's not about that.
That's self-defeating, which may be a defense mechanism.
Which is a defense mechanism. Absolutely. Absolutely. Let me cut this off at the pass. Let me just show you right now that I actually feel like I'm totally incompetent. Yeah.
How complex, eh?
I know.
Yeah. So recognizing it and talking about it, but talking about it to gain support from appropriate corners, not sharing it with everyone in existence. And what else?
Really challenging. I think it's actually important to keep. I talk about using having a yum and yay folder, and that sounds like a really glib thing, but really there's no other name for it for me, because it's all the things that you've done or the feedback that you've received that makes you go yum 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 yum, or yay, or like yay, I've been seen, or the work that I have done is being appreciated. So that's testimonials, that's reference letters, it's tweets that you've received, it's comments that you've received, it's anything that you have been told. So it's sort of this external quality. So there's all these things you can gather and put them in literally a folder. But then also doing your own due diligence from time to time, tracking your wins. What are all the things that you have delivered and succeeded and healed and survived? Keeping that really nice and close. I call that bolstering your authority thesis. And part of that is this Yaminier folder, because I think it's important to just continue to be aware of our progress and how far we've come, even from yesterday. Because one of the other lies is you'll never be able to pull that off again. But when we have proof positive, somewhere within reach, we can see actually the success that I've received or the success that I've enjoyed has been an amalgam of everything that I've been doing to this point. The bartending, the admin work, the advertising. So like it's not the success that I have enjoyed as a coach, as a speaker. Everything that I've done has been leading me to this point. So whatever successes that I've enjoyed, I'm going to enjoy them again in different ways, as long as I continue to keep that top of mind. There's another part of this, and this actually, this shows up a lot more than I think we even like to admit. There is fear. I actually hear this a fair bit. Many don't try certain things for fear of the success that they'll never be able to do it again, right? So it's not just the Elizabeth Gilbert, like, what if I can't recreate Eat, Pray, Love? It's more like, I'm not going to write Eat, Pray, Love because I can imagine it's going to be a wild success and then I'll never be able to recreate it. Like, doesn't that just give you a headache?
That's just paralyzing you.
Totally.
Yeah.
Totally. So the truth is that the one-hit wonder gave into the imposter complex. It's like, okay, I'm out. I can't do that again. Shut her down. Moving on. That's it. So I think that having this bolstering your authority thesis quality, being aware of what you've been doing, what you've been healing, as you continue to move through, that's going to help.
The folder that you're talking about, I like that idea because I know that it can take one negative comment to completely deflate you. And I experienced that the other day because I got a negative comment on a podcast episode. 500 people had listened to this and I'd had no negative comments. I'd had, and one person said this was boring and uninteresting and not useful to me. And that may have been true for that person. But then, you start thinking, oh no, like, was it horrible? Was it, so you start thinking, what did I do wrong? What could I do better? Maybe nobody's going to listen anymore, all this kind of stuff. And then I had to go and look at the numbers and say, okay, wait a minute. Okay. 500 people listened and nobody else said anything. If 15 people had said, not great, then maybe I would listen. But one person does have the power, and that's kind of frightening.
Absolutely. Well, it's that criticism you were talking about. So it's the way that you can feel disconnected. So all of a sudden, these 500 people, who did have an experience, and you don't even allow yourself to imagine because unless you hear from them. But this one person who goes through the effort of leaving this comment. Obviously what we know to do is to send that person love and light, and perhaps they'll find what they need elsewhere. And, we do give so much attention to that because of this pull of mastery, so again, so there's no not giving yourself the time to feel the self-doubt, right? Mm-hmm. And again, that's the human quality of it. But I always love thinking about, Brene Brown.
Yes.
Right? So
yes.
Daring Greatly. That's what that's all about. And how the genesis of that book was derived from those nasty comments that she received on her talk.
Yeah.
So we don't know where that's going to go. So we can send that person some love and light.
Yeah.
You just need to challenge for yourself, of course. Well, what's true about that? Is there any truth in that for you? Moving on.
Right.
Next.
Right. Yeah. And I struggled. Do I post this? Because, they come through and I have to approve or trash them. Mm-hmm. And I thought, no, I'm not going to trash it. I'm going to approve it and I'm going to respond in as, gracious and helpful way as I possibly can. Mm-hmm. But yeah, it kind of sucked me for a little while. And you know, I mean, it's going to happen, right? But it's recognizing it and keeping it in perspective, which is helpful, I think.
Well, and that's the very reason that we don't necessarily stick our necks out. And then there's also, though, have you had the experience where sometimes when you do something and it is overwhelmingly positive, that can also tend to shut you down?
Yeah.
Right? That's another part of the imposter complex. You can't trust the praise of others, or they're just trying to be nice. They're just being nice.
Huh.
Yeah.
Yeah, because then you start to wonder, really? Did they really mean that?
Yeah.
Ah.
Or like, oh, what have I managed to do that I've managed to fool them into thinking that I really knew what I'm talking about here. So that brings us back around to number 6, right? The number of times, the line number 6, which is we best tell everyone about this. So I got to set the record straight. I got to point out all the ways that I'm actually not, that I actually don't have this all figured out. So do you see it? It can be this sort of this self-fulfilling prophecy. So we just need to, just for a moment, hold the possibility that they are really and truly reflecting back what they see.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Wow.
And that their acknowledgement is a gift as it's intended to be. So, and there's another part of this too, is just the intent versus impact. And I think that, anytime I've received any negative criticism in any way, shape, or form, it is an opportunity. I don't like it. I would rather my opportunities come from a far more fun or pleasant place.
Yes.
But of course it is an opportunity. Where am I out of alignment? What is the opportunity for me to improve? Is there something that I need to shift? If there isn't, then, again, just that sort of that love and light kind of quality. Then also for me to look at my own, the way that I deliver feedback or the way I deliver criticism, and am I in integrity with the way my words are intended to land? What is the impact of my words?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Oh, lots to think about. So how hard is it for someone to work through the imposter syndrome?
Oh, that's a great question. I don't know. I've been reading a lot about crystals lately, so like hardness scales. So on a hardness scale of 7, I don't, it really it depends, right? So it depends on how closely how closely you feel it. So what I want to say is how powerful it is over you, I really think is what I'm really trying to say here. Mm-hmm. So if you find that you don't do things because of the imposter complex, you just won't do it because you think that you're not ready yet, then I think that's going to be really hard, because you might not even actually recognize that that's what's going on. Whereas somebody like Meryl Streep, movie after movie after movie, it's like, oh, well, this is going to be the time they're going to figure out, I don't know what I'm doing, 18 Oscar nominations later.
Right.
Here's a woman who knows and who continues to move through it. So she does have the tools. So I think that's just, I don't know that it's ever an easy thing. For me, it's gotten significantly easier, because it's like, oh, well, that's what that is. That's right. What that is, Yes, I'm absolutely ready to have that talk, because this is the work of my, this is my body of work. Like, I know this. So if I'm not ready yet, then that's my old friend, the imposter complex. So knowing that, I'm able to pretty quickly move into, what do I need to do about this? And the process that I outline, the Step Into Your Strong Role process, which is what I talk about in the Tedx talk, is what is it that you really want to move forward in? What is the goal? What is the thing that you're really wanting to step into? So maybe it is that speaking opportunity, or maybe it is that new role in your business, or maybe it is that next level. So what is that, and how is it truly fundamentally aligned to what I call your brand of joy? And then what are the objections that you face when you think about moving towards that? I call that meeting the critics. And then we discern which are real or which are imagined. So, a lot of what the lies of the imposter complex, these are the the work of inner critics, they have these beliefs that it is the grandmama here is the imposter complex. So just really being able to cull through what is real, and then what are the gaps that are actually that need to be filled. Like what are, when you hear I'm not ready yet, what is the truth underneath I'm not ready yet? What actually, just really challenge what is required for you to be truly ready for whatever it is. And then, so what is the ego part, which is massive. And then what are the pieces that actually do need to get filled? Do you need to work with a voice coach? Maybe yes, maybe no, probably not, but maybe yes, maybe that's absolutely what you need to do because this is the feedback that you continue to get. And then it's assembling your cast, getting the kind of support that you need to help fill those gaps, to help bridge whatever is needed. Bolstering your authority thesis so you know what is already here, and then moving into doing the work, which is getting the practice, taking the steps that you need to take, just really practicing, putting in the hours, making the right choices that continue to move you towards that goal. And then finally you need to celebrate all of the work that you've done when you get even kind of close to that first goal that you wanted to step into, because we need to integrate all of that amazing work that we've done to get us to this point. That conditions us to be able to step into the next goal that we want.
Right. And talking to or listening to people who are successful now speak about their journeys, I'm always glad to hear, not glad, but I'm relieved perhaps to hear that it hasn't been instant. It's been a long, slow road of many, many failures and things that have not gone the way people thought they would go, and the learnings from that, and then the progressing forward. So, all sorts of people that have said that, it wasn't overnight. It was long and slow and hard, and it was a lot of work. Mm-hmm. And here I am now, and here's what I've learned. And I appreciate that.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Your tenacity is currency. And I think it's about I mentioned this in lots of places, but, Malcolm Gladwell speaks of the 10,000 hours required to become an expert. And I think it's more like 10,000 choices when you continue to choose whose needs are you putting before your own needs or the needs of your goals. So that's where the hard often comes in. It's not necessarily the act of doing whatever the work is, because hopefully the work is aligned to your brand of joy and you really want to be doing it, but it's those choices that show up. Those are the forks in the road that can be really challenging when we have to start saying no to some people, when we have to start saying yes to things that feel very uncomfortable. That is the work. I always love to hold the possibility that it doesn't necessarily need to be hard, but it can be. I just posted about this just before our call. I went for a run. I had a dream last night that I had the most amazing run, and I'm not a natural runner, mm-hmm. But I have got to a certain point in my life, years ago, where running felt beautiful. And last night I had that dream, that chest opening, hair billowing behind me, like I was running on a cloud, and I was like, yeah, that's what I want. I want that. Put on my running shoes, and I went out, and oh my gosh, it was painful. It was like shards of glass through my knees and my ankles, and so it was just a lovely, very physical reminder for me that sometimes stepping into your dreams is not as billowy, sweet, and cushiony, soft as we want. But how badly do we want it?
Right. Oh, so much fun and so much to think about. If you wanted to leave the Communication Diva listener with one thing, what would it be?
I'm going to just say, I think it's the one truth. Well, first of all, thank you. So, you're not alone. That's absolutely, that is the underpinning of this work. You're not alone. You're not alone. You're not alone. You're not alone. The truth, the one truth though, of the imposter, of the imposter complex, that I just like to remind us, is that there is actually room for improvement. There's room for improvement, which is beautiful, right? This is beautiful that we continue to have places that we can grow and that we can stretch, as long as we don't collude that with not ready yet. So allowing the spaciousness of our desires for more, our desires for mastery, our desires for excellence, that's perfectly beautiful. And knowing that there is always room for more gives us lots of places to expand into. And I think that's very exciting.
The work is never done, is it?
Hallelujah. When it's done, we die.
That's right. Yeah. Tanya, this has been fantastic. And where can people know more about you and find you?
Well, they can find me at my site, tanyageisler.com. And when they show up, if they want to sign up for my posts, they will get the 12 Lies of the Imposter Complex. I'm fairly active on my Tanya Geisler coaching Facebook page. And I'm loving Instagram lately. I'm really, really enjoying it. So I'm at Tanya Geisler there and Tanya Geisler on Twitter.
Fabulous.
All good places. So pick whatever poison works for you and do connect.
So we'll put all that on the show notes at communicationdiva.com. And thank you again for reaching out and saying hi and connecting. I've thoroughly enjoyed this conversation.
Thank you, Jennifer. Thank you so much.
So there was my conversation with Tanya Geisler, and there wasn't too much construction noise. I suspect that if we had more time, we could have talked for another 45 minutes. She is energetic and enthusiastic and has a whole lot of stuff going on, so be sure to check out her website at tanyageisler.com. I've got all sorts of info on the Communication Diva show notes for episode 91. Come on over and check those out. A couple of other things to mention. The ebook that I've had out, How to Be Professional in the Workplace, I've had that out since 2011 on Amazon, Kindle, and Smashwords, and that's been pulled down by me because I am currently working with a publisher, Influence Publishing, and working on a new book. And that book will be out in spring of 2015. My book launch will be sometime in April. I'll keep you updated on that. And for now, I'm doing some research. And if you go over to the show notes for this episode, you will see a research question. If you participate in answering the research question and you send me an email with book research in the subject line, your name will go into a draw on October 31st of 2014. And the draw is for a signed advance copy of the book. The book is entitled What They See, How to Stand Up and Shine, or How to Stand Out and Shine in Your New Job. So it is intended to be an easy-to-read hand guide for high school and college grads or anybody really who is looking to present themselves in a more professional way through better communication in a brand new job setting. So if you have any advice, if you have any ideas for me, I have a question that is listed on the show notes of this episode that I'd love for you to answer. And the deadline to enter for the draw is October 30th, 2014. So come on over to communicationdiva.com, episode 91, and check that out. Another thing that I'm doing is if you sign up for our email list, you will receive 5 key questions, because sometimes people just need help figuring out what to do next in their lives, and all it takes is someone to ask the right questions. So I've got 5 key questions to ask yourself in a PDF that you will get if you come on over to the Communication Diva website, and over on the right-hand side, sign up for the mailing list. I don't mail very often. It's not spammy. You'll get newsletters and updates every once in a while, sometimes with special offers, sometimes with information that isn't found anywhere else on the website. And so these 5 key questions are to help get your engine started and your future possibilities emerging. So come on over and check that out. Until next time, believe in yourself. You are a beautiful human being, and I'm so glad that you are part of the Communication Diva community.